Translation. In that place, the beautiful deity expressed her desire. O learned one, Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree. Purport. Beautiful deity, seeing her husband absorbed in trance, began to speak loudly, not attempting to attract him by bodily expressions. She frankly said that her whole body was distressed by sex desire because of her husband's presence. Just as a banana tree is troubled by a mad elephant, it was not natural for her to agitate her husband when he was in trance, but she could not control her strong sexual appetite. Her sex desire was like a mad elephant, and therefore it was the prime duty of her husband to give her all protection by fulfilling her desire. Umagyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna. So we are reading about Aditi approaching her husband. Her husband, Kashyap Muni, he's a Brahmana Rishi, he's a Prajapati. So he's a progenitor. His duty is to populate the universe. And he also has 12 other wives. So he married 13 sisters who are the daughters of Daksha. And they all had children. So Diti was the only one who didn't have children. So when we read this, it's not that she was suffering from crude sex desire in a hedonistic way. She desired children. Because all her sisters had children. And generally, it causes a type of, you could say, an envy, and also it affects her social status. You know, like when you're growing up in such a family, everyone has children and you're the only one who doesn't have children. It affects you. So she was a little bit envious of her sisters, maybe more on the jealous side, and it was affecting her self-worth. So she approaches her husband, Kashyap, who's in trance, and she speaks to him in a way to agitate him. So then he says, please, wait, because this is not an auspicious time, because it's dusk. And dusk is the time when Lord Shiva does his Shivyatri. He's moving around. And he says to her, not in a very strong way, he says, if you do this is going to be the consequence. We're going to have children who are going to cause problems in the universe. And we know Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashi, were born. But still, because she was so strong in what she wanted, he gave in. Now, when we read this, it's not like sometimes people see it on a superficial level, thinking, well, she was a woman, she was lusty, but we have to understand what lust means here. It's not. So yes, she was lust. She wanted to have children because that's the element you need to have children. She's been, but on top of, but there's other factors. She wants to have children. Her social status is affected. She's jealous, envious of her children and her sisters, so she's approaching her husband. Now, it's also explained that her husband, he's also a devotee. He's not explained to be like on the level of, if you read later on, there's a comparison made to Vidura. It's explained that he could have been stronger in his words and said, no, we're not doing this. And Prabhupada explains, I believe in the next verse, he said he also became inclined. So he just said, look, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. But if you're insistent, we'll do the act. So he wasn't very strong in his purpose. So he had knowledge, he had the wisdom. He knew about Garbhadam Samskara, he knew the consequences. He's a progenitor, he knows everything. But still, he did it. He still wasn't able to stop that strong desire. So that means he was also affected. So him being the husband, he should have been a bit stronger. So he's actually caught up in a very difficult situation, because he has a dharma. He has a dharma to propagate the universe. Populate the universe. He also has a duty to protect and look after his wife's needs. It's his obligation. But he also has a high dharma the Sanatana Dharma, which is to follow the orders of Lord Vishnu, to do things according to his rules, because he knew the science of bhakti. So he's caught up. If he doesn't satisfy his wife, he's failing his wife. So that is a dharma in itself. But the higher dharma is for him to follow the orders of Lord Vishnu. And it wasn't long they had to wait, probably 45 minutes maybe. But he gave in. So dharma, we know it means to sustain, to hold. And Prabhupada explains, on the highest, in the deepest level, it means the essence of something. So Prabhupada says, he gives examples of that, and he says the example, the essence of sugar, for example, is to be sweet. The example of water, the essence of water is to, when you drink it, it nourishes you. The essence of the soul is Jivara Swrupai Krishna Nitya Das. So, in like that, so dharma, so everyone has a dharma, right? So if you think about dharma, like sometimes, I've heard people say, we don't need to be dharmic, okay, we just need bhakti. But dharma is the way you express yourself in terms of your roles, your responsibilities in the material world, okay? If you don't follow dharma, then you're basically subject to the 8,400,000 species of life. You can do what they do, but dharma means you're following a civilized platform where you can practice, elevate your consciousness, and go back to Godhead. But with that comes certain norms, certain rules. One of them, you go through varnashram. You go from brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprash to sannyas. And you also do the full occupation. Within that, there are rules and regulations. So one way to think of it is that dharma is like a pot, right? And bhakti is like the Ganges water. You put the Ganges in the pot and it holds it. So dharma is so it's basically helping us to practice bhakti. Everyone's dharma is different, So if you're a kshatriya, your duty is to protect the innocent. I was hearing from one devotee who was explaining about brahmanas and kshatriyas, that for them they live by religious principle and they're willing to sacrifice themselves because that's what they live by. Whereas a vaishya and a shudra, he's not so bothered about that. They're kind of self-centered. So a brahmana, kshatriya, that's what they're about. So brahmana teaches dharma and a kshatriya make sure it's followed in the kingdom. So like Kashyap Muni, he has a dharma. His dharma, when you're married, you have to make sure you're protecting not just your wife, your children, you're doing your duties. But that doesn't mean, you forget your responsibilities to Krishna. So it's not that we don't do dharma, it's that we do it in accordance with Krishna. We do it to use it as a platform to elevate our consciousness and bhakti. So I was reminded of in Ramayana, when Dharmaraja, he came with his kingdom to bring back Lord Ram, because Lord Ram went into exile. And he said, please come back. And so Lord Ram, he made up, his father said, because his father was obliged by his wife to send Lord Ram into exile. So Lord Ram, he followed that rule. So you can say he followed that on the platform of Dharma. He was obligated to follow his father, whatever his father said. But when Bharat came, Bharat is coming saying, Lord Ram, please come back. You're the king. Everyone loves you. You're the rightful person to rule this kingdom. And so he could say he's acting on the platform of bhakti. So there's a little bit of conflict there, you could say. So dharma must culminate in bhakti. Whatever you're doing, whether it's painting, whether it's protecting people or whatever, or even cooking, it must culminate in bhakti. So dharma is the how, and bhakti is the why. So I heard a very nice way of explaining this. So like, okay, so I heard about, so like we because like when we're doing devotional service, we go through these 4 stages. I mean, it's not really given in the Gita, but we can think of it like this. So we have karma, right? Karma is doing the activity. So like you go to the kitchen, you cut the potatoes, and if you're making fries or you put in the sabji, so you're doing the activity. So your consciousness, the Krishna is there, bhakti is there, but it's not prominent. As you become more advanced, you come onto the Jnana platform. So now you start to develop or cultivate knowledge of Krishna. You learn the metaphysics. Why are you doing it? You're doing it as an offering to Krishna. So you're doing the activity, but now you're doing it with knowledge of Krishna. Okay? Then as you practice more, you come to the dhyana platform. What is the dhyana platform? The dhyana platform is you're doing the activity, you're cutting your potatoes, you're doing it with knowledge of Krishna consciousness, but now you're thinking of Krishna. So you're becoming more mature in your bhakti. And what's the final stage? The final stage is bhakti. What is bhakti? Bhakti is you're doing the activity, you're doing it with knowledge of Krishna, you're thinking of Krishna, but more importantly, you're doing it for Krishna. Because what does Krishna say to Arjuna? He says, Mam anusmara yudhyacha. He says, think of me and fight. Do it for me. So what Krishna wants, if we do it for him, that's bhakti. So we use our skills, our inclination, we put it into Krishna service. So I was reading this a while back, and it was explaining, if you read about Swayambhuva Manu, because he's one of the Mahajans, he's the foremost of the Manus, and his duty is to teach. He's the father of mankind. Now, when we think about one of his main scriptures he gives is the Manu Samhita, right? That's about Varnashram. Now, when we think about that, when we read that, we think, well, it's got nothing really to do with us. But and then we hear later on about Devi Varnashram. But what he's actually teaching is Devi Varnashram. Because if you read in the Bhagavatam, the demigods approach Lord Brahma and they say, we know what Varnashram is, but you know how to connect it to Krishna, right? So when Krishna, it says he talks about how he taught this knowledge of the Gita. He taught it to Vivaswan, and it went down. It was given to Raja Rishis, kings who were saintly. But what were they teaching? They were teaching how to use your varna, your ashram, and use that to purify yourself, to make advancement and go back to Godhead, right? They weren't teaching nectar devotion. It was teaching how to use your work, use your dharma in Krishna service, and advance yourself, so everyone can make advancement. So I thought that was really interesting. So like Kashyap Muni, he also has that. But the thing is, he became weak. And later on, we hear that when he's been when talking about Vidura, what is Vidura called? Vidura is called a hero. Now, when we think of hero, it's not talking about superhero. It's not talking about someone who's a good fighter or who wins the World Cup. It's talking about someone who has self-control. We also hear about Haridas Thakur when he was tested by Maya Devi. He was able to reject Maya Devi's her trying to seduce him, because his bhakti was so strong, his purpose was so strong. So it's not that Kashyap Muni wasn't a devotee. He was a devotee, but at that moment he failed. He became inclined, and he put the dharma satisfying his wife more, and we know what the result was. So it's important as we're doing things, we're trying to we have knowledge of this is what we're doing, but this is why we're doing it for. What is the purpose? Now, also, I was thinking about lust. This word is used in a very very strong way. What is lust? Lust doesn't mean it's just sex. It means material desire. It means you want something for yourself, just for yourself. And if that's frustrated, what happens next? You become angry, right? And then what? And then if you are able to get it, it leads to greed. So Krishna talks about the three gateways to hell. So in the Bhagavatam later on, it says that greed can never be satisfied. But I heard one devotee say that material desire is a desire that can never be satisfied. So then, what does that mean for us? As on a practical level, let's say, we're students, we're living in the world, or we want a job, or we want to get married, or we want to buy a big house. Is that just Maya? Is it Maya to be healthy? Is it Maya to desire things? So this is the amazing thing about Devi Varnashram, is that according to your capacity, according to your nature inclination, you engage your desire. You engage it. Obviously, you have to be sensible how you do it, because there's also nuance to it. But you engage it, and you basically, so you purify the desire, and then you become detached from it. So we hear about the king of Jaipur. He doesn't see him. So, you have Jaipur and the main deity is Radha Govindaji. It's an amazing place. If you haven't been, you should go. And he's explaining the king, he's a fabulously wealthy, he's a, multi-billionaire. But he doesn't see this kingdom belonging to him. He sees himself as the caretaker, as the manager. He's running that on behalf of Radha Govinda. Radha Govinda owns everything. He's just a caretaker. Like in school, you have someone who has the keys to the school. He doesn't own the school. His job is just to open up the gates to make sure everything's working well. So he's like that. So he's not attached to it. So if he gets wealth, automatically knows it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to Radha Govinda. I'm going to use it, engage it, and make advancement from it. He's never becomes attached. So that's the thing. So when we get material things, then we should engage there. So it's like sometimes I've heard people say, I have a spiritual desire to get married, right? I'm not, but that's the kind of wrong idea, because you have a material desire to get married. It's an emotional desire to have kids, emotional desire to have your own space. But the thing is, you're engaging that in Krishna's service. That's how it becomes purified. So then you do your duty, but you don't become attached. It's not the bill. You're attached to doing your duty. You're doing it for Krishna. You've taken on that responsibility. So there's no so material desires are real, but we need to be able to engage it carefully under the authority of a spiritual master and seniors, so we can ensure we don't get attached to it. I heard a few years, maybe it was 25 years ago, I heard about this woman or this guy. When he or she died, they were buried with like $1 million, because they were so attached to their money. What they're going to actually do? They're going to go to a next body. God knows what they're going to get in the next life. And it kind of reminded me of the Egyptians, the pharaohs. When they're buried, they have their treasure with them. Even some of their servants would commit suicide to go and serve them in the afterworld. So that understanding was there. But the thing is, you don't know what you're going to be in your next body. You can't, they say you come in this world naked, you leave naked, right? So the point is not to get attached to things. The reason why we appreciate material things is not because of dead matter, because dead matter cannot satisfy the soul. It's because Krishna is within it. So Prabhupada says when a flower is blooming, it's Krishna smiling. If we like a certain color, it's because Krishna is within it. We're attracted to that. But we shouldn't see it's because the matter is attracting us. It's Krishna's attracting within us, because Krishna pervades everything. So the idea is to engage things and become purified by it. Now, so another thing I was thinking about when I was reading this verse was about, because there's Diti and she has a sister called Aditi, right? So basically Aditi, who was her son? What son did she have? Vamnadev. Who gave her the instruction to have that son? Her husband. So then you think, okay, well, why is it he was spiritual then? He wasn't spiritual with Diti, You could say it's the Lord's arrangement. Well, whatever the reason was, it's not that we have Aditi's actions, what she followed to perfection was, she actually became a great Vaishnavi because of that. It's not that her husband was, some acharyas, some devotees even say she superseded her husband, and because of that she had the Lord as her son. So she was also a little bit distraught. She was also in a similar situation, not the same. And the Lord and her husband instructed her to do this. You'll have the Lord. So her purpose, her purpose, her strategy was different. Her consciousness was different from Diti. Diti couldn't wait. She wanted a son. She wanted to do the act there and then. But if she would have waited, whether it's 45 minutes, whether it's an hour, she could have had children who were God conscious, who were dharmic, who were spiritual, but she didn't want to. It's not that she wasn't Then another thing is, it's not that she was an uncultured woman. She was a very cultured, sophisticated woman. She's the daughter of Daksha. She's been through the Vedic training. She knows everything. And we shouldn't think we're better than them. They're actually far more elevated than us, more sophisticated than us. But the idea of this pastime is to show us that we are also facing this. Should we follow our responsibilities and neglect what's the higher principle, which is Krishna? So Diti and Aditi, it's very interesting. Two sisters, but they both did different things. They both got different outcomes. So the same feminine energy is there. Deep attachment to children, right? The need for protection, strong self-interest in family matters, right? But one through obedience to Vishnu Bhakti got Vamnadev, and one through unregulated envy, revenge, and having the conception at the wrong time, got Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyakashipu. So there's nothing wrong in a deity wanting children. It's natural. That's the whole point. The whole, in Manusmriti says the reason why you get married is to have children. It's not to like hang out or go to the cinema or be romantic. It's to have children. That's the whole point, and you take on that responsibility. So if you're not having it, and naturally a woman will be, she'll be thingy, she'll be agitated, she'll be upset. So there's nothing wrong with that. So it shouldn't be seen like, well, she was just a lusty woman. It's not the same as what hedonistic people do. So Prabhupada never denies that just by engaging your desire you can't make advancement. You can, but you have to do it in a careful way. You have to know why you're doing something, okay? And by doing that, then you make spiritual advancement. So you see in the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam is not just about pure devotees, it's also about conditioned people who are also going through it. Even great devotees have these issues. The idea is for us to see this and think, we're also prone to this. It's like I was because I live in New York, and I had to go and buy something, and I saw something, and I was thinking, I saw something I really liked, and I thought, I really like this, let me buy this. Then I was thinking, this is going to cost quite expensive. Why not get something cheaper? With the extra money, I can do something for home, right? Now, obviously, I'm trying to engage both of them in bhakti, but the first option, it was more about me. It was more about how I felt. It was like if I get this, I'll feel good about myself. I will look good, right? It's very subtle. So then, then I opted for the second option, which was cheaper. Then it didn't disturb me. I wasn't as attached to it. So we have to check ourselves at every moment, at every step. Are we doing something because of our own selfish need, or are we doing it because we want to engage in Krishna? There's nothing wrong if you've got the capacity to get a big house, get a nice car. There's nothing wrong with that. But it has to be it has to be done accordingly. It has to be done according to your nature, and are you doing it for the right purpose? So I was just thinking, I had quite a few notes, but I don't know if I'll get time to go through them. So this is a very powerful pastime. Also the principle of Garbhadan Samskara, is very important. Prabhupada talks about Garbhadan Samskara in his books. He doesn't explain exactly how to do it. He says you have to go to this book. So if you go to Gopala Bhatta Goswami's book, it gives it in great detail. So, so sometimes we become quite fanatical. We're like, well, it doesn't matter. For example, in an example of this, we can have children anytime. We just chant 50 rounds, right? But the thing is, that 50 rounds is to improve your consciousness. So when you do it at the right time, you're doing it for Krishna. It's not that you do it at random time. It's not that you can have children during dusk and expect to get good children. No, what happened to them can also affect us. And we see in the world what's happening, right? We see many evil things happening, many people doing evil things, Like it says in Bhagavatam that whenever there's a natural disaster, it's because some sinful personality has been born, right? It says that. So we shouldn't think these rules don't apply. They do apply to us. But the reason why we follow them is for our higher purpose, is for Krishna. So engaging our desires is fine, but we have to do it accordingly. But more importantly, we have to do it in the right way for Krishna. And because we shouldn't repress. Repression is not good, because you're going to end up doing it, and then you'll do it for the wrong reason. So I'm going to stop here. If anyone would like to make a comment or ask a question.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the class. Prabhu, you were saying that Diti wasn't necessarily lusty, but more so she desired to have a child because her sisters had children.
Yeah, that's right.
So is that better? Or being envious of the sisters, having a kind of motherly position, than being hedonistic? Which one is better?
Well, it's not so much about better. It's the natural nature of a person. You know, it's like, Prabhupada explains that it's natural for a woman to want to have children when she gets married. If she's not having children, it's going to cause her great distress. Yeah, and because she wanted to do it at the wrong time, that was the timing was wrong. That was the only issue there. And when like it says envious, but I would say it's more on the jealous side, because there's a difference between those two words. But what you have to understand, in that time she's part of like a royal family. Her sisters are having kids. People are talking. So it's like these things do affect you, right? And remember, she's a woman, a dharmic woman. Even she's affected. So for her to feel those things is completely natural. There's nothing wrong with it. It's her mistake was to basically ask at the wrong time, and it was actually her husband's greater fault for just giving into it. If you want to say, I mean, her husband was in the wrong because he was also inclined to do the act. He was also agitated, but he should have also been the leader in the relationship. He should have stepped back and said, no, we're going to wait. He should have been very strong. Prabhupada says he should have been strong and said, no, we're not doing it at that time. We're going to do it at the right time. So, Prabhupada, does that answer your question, or do you want to add anything more?
No, I just kind of came across that envy is better than lust.
No, envy. No, it's explained that like all these elements. Envy is one element that cannot be engaged in Krishna service. It's not that envy is better than lust, but lust can also be engaged in Krishna service and purified, right? Having children. Lust means material desire. You're engaging that desire in Krishna service and purifying it. So it's not. So envy can't be engaged. It says that the Acharya say you can't engage that. Does that make sense?
Okay. And this last sentence in the purport. It was Kashyapa's duty as a husband to give protection, and in this way fulfill her desires. So how is protection connected with fulfilling desires?
So protection doesn't just mean, saving her from danger. Prabhupada uses it in a very broad sense. Like if you look at Prabhupada's, the way he uses words, he says it in a very broad, versatile way. It's not just limited to one understanding. If you study Prabhupada's books. But protection is like, protecting her is also protecting her physically, mentally, and spiritually, right? Mental, she's having problems, right? He has a duty to protect her on that level. So physically protection is that she's gonna, if her mental state goes even worse, then physically she may do something even maybe crazy, and she may become, something will happen. So he has to protect her, but he has to do it on all levels. It's not just one level. And so and having children is also good for her because it's having children with his wife is also protecting because because that protects her mental. And then that won't ruin her bhakti. Does that make sense? You want to ask something further to that, or you okay? Okay. Anyone else? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think this thing about envy, and you mentioned maybe envy is not exactly the right word. It's more like, with DTU, is like...
Jealousy.
Maybe not even that, but just feeling like missing out. It's like you go to a birthday party and they're serving the cake and everybody has cake on their plate and your plate is empty. It's like you don't hate them for having cake. You're just like, what about me? Everybody else has something that's very important, that's very essential, that's very dharmic, that's very helpful, and I don't have. I also want, like that. And then it becomes a very strong, it's not so much a physical urge, it's more like an emotional urge, which is stronger than physical urge because it's more subtle. So that was the thing that she was just like, I need this. I need to have a child. And
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with her wanting a child. That's her. It's an emotional. We don't deny our emotional needs. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that we have different needs. Even recreation is one of them. There's nothing wrong in denying these things, but you have to do it in a proper way, without you becoming attached to it. Yes. So having women, having children is natural. It's like in America, like I don't know if it's due to the food or the environment. But you know, like a lot of women, they are struggling to have children, and a lot of women who go into the career path, they want to have children later on. They're struggling, so they have something called IVF, and they spend thousands, and I mean probably like $10,000 to $20,000. You know, that's what I've heard, and like you know, it's like even after going through, trying from a young age or going to the corporate, that nature is still there to have children, to love. So it's natural, you know. It's like hunger, thirst. It's not Maya. You know, it's not Maya to be happy in married life, you know, because these are natural nerds. We all want to be happy. We all want to be satisfied, but we want to do it connected to Krishna. Now, I just wanted to explain about the envious and jealousy. I used to get those confused. Now, not contradicting you, but I think just to explain. So, envious is like someone has something. You're like, why does he have it? I should have it. You know, he shouldn't have it. I should have it. Jealousy is, you know, they have it, I would like it too. You're not denying that person of having that experience, that asset. But so it's not malicious, it's not vindictive, it's not denying the other person. But it's like, oh, I wish I had it too. Whereas envious is like, I don't want that. Now, Diti was not envious of her sister. She just felt, I want it too, you know? Because you can't be in an environment like that. Because you have to understand, we don't deny social situations. It's a social status. Imagine she's amongst her sisters, she's the only one who doesn't have a kid. People are going to speak. All these things are just going to put pressure on her. You know, what also combined with her natural desire to have children. So it's natural, so that shouldn't be condemned. So is that okay, Mataji? You want to add something?
Yeah, but ultimately I'm thinking that this is all the Lord's Leela, you know, because these Jai and Vijay had to take birth. They had to take birth as demons, and so things had to be orchestrated in such a way. So this intense desire and this immediate, like, I want it now, that was like coming from Paramatma. Like,
yeah, that's true.
So that the demons could take birth, basically.
And that's what, yeah, that's right. Everything's the Lord's Leela, because, you know, it's to inspire us. Just like Arjuna being bewildered on the battlefield of Bhagavad Gita. He knows Bhagavad Gita, but Krishna put him in there, covered him by Yogamaya so he can speak the Gita. So yeah, but even if you're not on that platform, those needs, those desires are natural, you know. So it does happen, and those people shouldn't be condemned. They should be, you know, supported, and we shouldn't think they're being lusty or they're being too overly attached. It's a natural thing. Anyone that would like to make a comment, ask a question? Makurina?
So, Prabhu, I'm just trying to understand this because it sounds contradictory.
Yeah.
Desires are natural.
Yes.
Specifically, in this example, we have a desire of Diti to have children. That's natural.
That's natural, yes.
Yeah. So, therefore, she shouldn't be condemned.
That's correct.
Because of this natural desire.
Yeah.
Right? But at the same time, we're saying it's not lust. You're saying it's not lust.
No. I'm saying it's not that she was lusty in a hedonistic sense. She just wanted to have sex. That's not what's been said here. Because Prabhupada clarifies she wanted to have children. So when a woman's ovulating, it's natural she has that desire. She does, her emotions and everything are affected, and because that's what her body's in, and that's the most conducive for having children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what is an unnatural desire? Like, for example, all of us have a desire to enjoy.
Yeah.
So when do we say it's natural, and when do we say it's unnatural?
So in the context, in the context of, because you're talking about lust, because when we think of lust, we think of sex, we think of this hedonistic desire to have it without the purpose of children. So the purpose of sex is to have children, right? So Krishna says, he says, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principle. That means doing it only for children. But then we see in the world, there are organizations, they're providing these stimulants, these things to enhance sexual pleasure without responsibility, which is not to have children. That is an example of lust. Now, lust doesn't just mean sex, because that's just one of the things, but it also means a material desire. It means a desire to have something. But if you have something to desire, you want something, and you want it unconnected to Krishna, then that's lust. Because a material desire is a desire that cannot be satisfied. So if you have a desire for something and you become attached to it, that's never going to satisfy you. That's lust, right? And then if it's frustrated, you're going to get angry. And if you get it, you're going to want it more and more and more, and that's greed.
So her desire to have children because it's not connected with Krishna is not natural then?
No, her desire to have children is natural. Her issue was the timing was wrong. So as Mataji was saying, Krishna arranged it in such a way so Jane Vijay can take birth is Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyakashipur. But her desire to have children is perfectly natural, because she's over.
But it's not connected with Krishna though.
Why is having children not connected to Krishna?
Because she desired, because someone else has got children and she doesn't have children.
No. What's the purpose of getting married? Tell me, what's the purpose of getting married? Manusmriti says it clearly, it's to have children. There's no other purpose. It's not to have romantic things, going down, strolling, going to the cinema. It's to have children. So she got married, so her natural desire is to have children. That's natural. Imagine, why did Lord Brahma get angry with his sons, the 4 Kumars? Because they didn't want to get married. They didn't want to become grahastas and have children. So having children is not the problem. But having children in the right way, with the right consciousness at the right time, is dharma. And when you're doing it for Krishna, it's bhakti. So you just because she wanted children doesn't mean she's a maya. That's a natural thing. Her issue was due to all the circumstances, and she was wanted to do it at the wrong time, which is dusk. Doing it at that time is an offense to Lord Shiva. So, and then Lord Shiva plants souls into the womb, which are demonic. Does that make sense? Are you still confused? Yes, please. Pass the mic.
The spiritual master also has a say in it, whether you should be a grahasta or a brahmachari and stay on in brahmacharya.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and with Shivaram Swami.
Yeah.
He says, though they're great brahmacharis, he says, no, you go into a grahasta life.
That's right.
And the same with children, anything like that he will direct a person. And sometimes people don't have children, but it's not through their fault. They're married, but it's the nature. It's like first in our family we could have children, but then when we did, we adopted one, and when we adopted one, we had one through natural birth.
Yeah.
And you just can't tell, what nature's going to do. On both occasions, we had children, one adopted and one by natural birth. So, but the spiritual master also has a say in it. What ashram you're in, whether you're a brahmachari.
I just want to mention, I'm not condemning people who are married and they're not able to have children. Due to health reasons, they've failed in the marriage. Obviously, as devotees, they can still make advancement, and it's what Krishna wants. Obviously, I'm just saying, the what's prescribed in Shastra. So your spiritual master tells you, and actually also says if your spiritual master tells you to get married, you can also. That's the only time you can say no to him. I don't know. I've never heard of anyone saying no yet. I'd like to see that. But generally, that's the principle, And I heard from one sannyasi, he was saying that when you get married and you have children, it gives you responsibility, right? Because responsibility is what makes a person. It's not being free, doing nothing. It's responsibility. and bringing a child into the world, because you're doing a great devotional service, because you're bringing, if you do it according to the Dharmaraja and according to religious principles, you're bringing a pure Krishna conscious person into the world. You're going to raise him in Krishna consciousness, and that person is going to spread Krishna's glories. You're going to populate the earth with saintly children. So that's a service to the Lord. And that's what Brahma was so angry with the Kumaras, because they didn't want to get married and have children, because that was his service. His service, was to create this, make sure that the earth is populated with jivas, so they can, experience bhakti and go back to Godhead. So thank you for saying that. Anyone else? Mataji, can someone give me the mic?
Well, you were saying that this Garbhadan Samskara, it's there in the book by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. What does it involve?
Well, there was a book written by two devotees. There is certain rituals. So, for example, there's a mantra you chant, and when you're about to do the act, before you do the act, you actually let people know, I'm about to do this activity. Please give your blessing. So you invite senior devotees, you invite Vaishnavas, Brahmanas. And it's a very simple ritual. It's like you're saying a verse which is like the size of a Bhagavad Gita verse. But if you want to see it, there's a book. I forgot the name. They may have it in the shop here because I actually purchased it here. But that two devotees put it together. But it's a very simple ritual. It's not like a massive thing. It's basic. It's just like you're offering prasadam, right? You're thanking the Lord for this. You're asking the Lord to accept it and thanking Him for giving it back to you so you can eat it, so you can become purified. It's as simple as that. But the rituals afterwards, when the woman's pregnant, and that's quite elaborate.
All the samskaras.
Yeah, all the samskaras, yeah. Yes, do you anything? Oh.
What would you call you want to have something another person has, but you're not good enough to have it.
Yeah.
But you're still desiring it, but you're never gonna be good enough to have it.
Yeah.
So you just live with that feeling. Is that also jealousy or envy, or is it something else?
I mean, it's not envy, but I mean, it's like a lot of people want to be billionaires, right? They want to live in Hawaii or somewhere tropical, but they're not qualified to get that, right? Life still goes on. They can still live in the material world, practice bhakti, and go back to Godhead. So there's a lot of things. That's what I'm saying. I was saying there's nuance. Like, it has to be reasonable as well. It has to be within our karma. So, like, if you're someone who doesn't have a job, it's a bit silly to think about. Oh, I want to buy a mansion, in I forgot the name of this, around the corner for like a few £1 million. It's not reasonable. But if you're someone who's working, you've got a family, you're like, yeah, I want to get a house within my capacity, what the banks will lend me for, according to my salary. That's reasonable. That's normal, because then you can use that house in Christian service. So like there's one devotee who lives not too far. He has these amazing programs at his house. He invites devotees, sannyasis. So that's perfectly normal. And he spent a lot of money building his house.
So it's more of a desire of wanting more than you already have, like being not satisfied.
So are you saying there's a difference between wanting more than your qualification and karma? Is that different from desire? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, I just know from from Krishna book.
Yes.
That's how Prabhupada describes the gopis in a way, being jealous under asterisks of Radharani, but in a way that they know that they are not as on the same platform as Radharani, and they will never be on the same platform as Radharani. But still, they desire to get the same treatment as Radharani.
But that is a spiritual desire. That's not material desire.
No, I understand.
Yes.
I would just like to know. Would you know a good way to describe it? Because in some ways, we all have that desire. In some way, also spiritually.
Are you asking to describe a spiritual desire or material? I'm a bit confused by your question.
No, because, how would you? What's the word? Classify it as something good or bad, or does it depend on circumstances?
Asking for something beyond your qualification and karma.
Desiring something.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
desiring something, same thing. So you're wanting something beyond your qualification and karma that you have no chance.
And you're very well aware of it, but still you have it internally.
The thing is, you can't stop desires. It's natural, right? There's no way you can purify desires. And part of the process is to realize that you're not qualified for this. It's not your karma. You're not going to get it. And you have to be satisfied and content with what you have. So having a desire, like for example, to eat, that's not maya, that's natural. Having a desire to get married when you have that natural psychological need, that's natural, that's not maya. Okay? But if you have a desire to want something, and it's just, let's say you see, like if you go to somewhere, I don't know, south of France, Monaco, you see someone driving this Bugatti or having this $100 million yacht, and you only earn £30,000 a month. You want it because you want to make yourself look good, feel good about yourself. Then, that desire is somewhat natural, but it's not practical. And at that point, with the guidance of a senior devotee or friend, they should cut it and say, no, this is not. You're not going to get it. Just be attached with what you have. But there's certain psychological, emotional, spiritual, recreational needs you have to fulfill. It's okay to satisfy. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this in great detail. Satyananda Maharaj did a seminar on this actually. So there are certain desires which are normal, we should satisfy. It's normal. But remember, everything according to our karma and qualification, and it has to be connected to Krishna. We're doing it for Krishna. It shouldn't take us away from Krishna. It should bring us to Krishna.
Okay, so just desires coming up itself is not necessarily something bad. It's natural.
Desires, things that come up from your mind, they're coming from the memory. They're from past life. It's a remix of so many things. They're not all spiritual. They're not all good for you. There's a lot of crazy things. Like you could walk down the street and see something that agitates you. It's not that you want it. You act on it. No, like you see criminals. They see someone wearing an expensive watch and they go and rob it. It's a desire, but it doesn't mean it's normal. It doesn't mean it's good. It has to be in line with dharma as well. It has to be in line with your karma. So if you have the money, then you can go and buy it instead of stealing it. So we have to be careful. Just because it's a desire, it doesn't come under one category. It's there's a lot of crazy things that come in the mind. Just like when we sleep, we see a lot of crazy things, right? It's not always, it's a remix of everything, all your experiences in life. So we have to be careful on that. So desire, I'm talking about genuine desire. Like we're talking here about Diti having children, or a person wanting to get married, or someone wanting to buy a house for his family, or wanting to progress in his career. I'm talking about natural desire. I'm not talking about desire which is completely unnatural. Yes? Next question.
So your desire itself was never bad. It's just the way it was lived out was inauspicious.
It's a symptom of being in a conditioned body, but you're going to get many desires coming to you. You can't stop desire. You can purify your desires by changing the focus of his desire, put into Krishna, and then according to your karma, according to your nature, according to your capacity, then and the guidance of senior devotees, you can choose which is the right desire, which is sensible. Okay, I'm going to stop here now. Thank you very much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Gopinanda ki jai. Jaini Tagore, Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.